Hello and welcome back to another video. My name is Matt, and this is part of the video series Matt Plays Every Spec. Um, Today we're going to be playing Warlock a little bit. I just spent a bunch of time setting up Warlock to a point that I consider it not annoying to play. And actually putting time and effort into edit mode and keybinds specific to Demonology Warlock. I have not played Demonology Warlock before before this time since Shadowlands or something, or maybe even Dragonflight. Oh, probably Dragonflight, because my Warlock was level 70, and I don't think I had to do that. I didn't have to get it there. So if your character that you have to level through the War Within is 60 when you look at the character select screen or whatever, then the last time you played that character was Shadowlands, sometime during Shadowlands, and you did not play that character during Dragonflight. But this character was level 70, so that's evidence that I played during Dragonflight. I mean, these are super experimental videos where I'm working through trying to figure out how my brain actually works and what's different about ADHD people, because I found out I'm one of them, and I'm finding out little things that I didn't realize added to my frustration, but they make a gigantic difference. Case in point, I guess I'll provide a personal testimonial as to why I believe this to be true. Last night, I was working on a little project, and that project was trying to find a way to explain my reasoning for the way I set up keybinds. And you might think that I was practicing or something, like recording a video with no intention of showing it, going through the motions to get better. And instead, what happened was I found myself not doing that, but I instead was staring at, well, not staring, but I had WoW open, and I was looking at this stuff and working it out in my head, just thinking about what I would say. And they say that the best way to the best way to learn something is to teach it. So, but I didn't have that in mind at the time. I just thought, okay, let's prepare ourselves, for that part of those videos. And I was in the mood to do it. I didn't have a time frame set. I didn't say I'm only gonna do this for 5 minutes. I just felt like doing it, and I got started. This is not something that's usually advisable for ADHD people because um, it's hard for us to decide how much time to invest in something. And if we spend too much time, even if I go over something by a very small amount of time, like under a minute, I can get frustrated kind of easily. And so I didn't do that perfectly, but that's fine. I just wanted to say that what ended up happening is I was enjoying myself in this process so much, just thinking about what to say, keybind by keybind, that I ended up doing that, staring at this area, thinking, thinking sentences, and asking myself, why do I really have this logic and stuff like that? And I found myself just sitting there, um, enjoying the act of planning, which is an insane thing to say. And I didn't realize until I hadn't played WoW. I hadn't moved my character or cast a spell. I was just sitting wherever I had sat my character, which was somewhere close to the auction house in Orgrimmar, because I hadn't moved this character to um, the new zone for questing yet. I had just launched the character and I was in preparation mode to level this character. So those were the circumstances, and I found myself sitting there and just thinking about the plan and thoroughly enjoying it, which is exactly what so many people advise as the first step before you start doing a project. And I'm not young, I'm middle aged, and for my whole life, I said no to that because I hated that step. I just hated it so much. Because I'm like, I can't do that. I mean, I don't understand. I don't like to plan. I, I want to get started. Just let me get started. I guess what happened last night is I've finally found the ADH way to be able to plan things and not hate it, and actually kind of enjoy it. My whole life I've been an improviser and not a planner, and I didn't enjoy any sort of preparation. And recently, maybe in the past month or so, I learned something about ADHD that caused me to rethink some of the things that I had previously thought I did not enjoy. Things like rules, um, preparation, um, discipline, scheduling, deadlines, lots of things. Um, and because ADHD brains, and mine in particular, have black and white thinking, which also I thought was bad, because, the Sith quote, only a Sith deals in absolutes. I really hope that means I'm not one. But, 'cause Siths are bad, okay? But, like, dividing something into two things is black and white thinking. So let me explain what I mean. I grew up and as a kid quickly became frustrated with things like rules and deadlines and discipline. I think all the aforementioned things. Um, so, because I was really young, my brain is like, these things are bad. We do not like these things. And then that was my opinion for several decades, up until recently. And then, after I learned that I had to hesitantly open myself up to the idea that black and white thinking isn't necessarily bad, and I was able to do that because I was open to learning things about ADHD. Um, and then I don't know, at some point I had the realization that maybe I just haven't used the black and white thinking enough. And the way I understand this, oh, I mean, the way I think about it, so, because I'm not like any sort of psychologist, I don't know proper terms, so I'm just going to use the terms that I think. So, it's a useful thing to try and, you know, split things apart. You know, that's black and white thinking. And if that means, like, splitting things like concepts into two equal parts, that's really useful. So, I said, maybe I don't like, maybe it's not that I don't like discipline. Maybe I just don't like other external or bad, you know, I don't like bad discipline. I like discipline if it's good. Or I like discipline if it's my own discipline. I don't have a lot of that, but when I think about how I feel about discipline, I think about like martial arts movies, not, being ordered what to do by some kind of fascist dictator or something. So, I mean, I've been a fan of Asian culture for my whole life, and I love like the mentor and apprentice dynamic, like in martial arts movies, where some wise, old kung fu teacher is trying to get a undisciplined young person to be disciplined. And I have good feelings about that. And it's important to notice that that's an enjoyable type of discipline. And for my whole life, I thought that's something that's not for me, because I saw discipline as doing the things that people that don't like me or have my best interests in mind want me to do, and they'll yell at me or hurt me if I don't do them. That's kind of like fascism. So I was able to suspend my opinion long enough to try out this theory, and I found that I do enjoy discipline and preparation and planning, and a lot of stuff that I had previously 100% written off as something that I do not enjoy and do not want to do. Um, and I just had to separate I had to like take my big old hammer of black and white thinking and attack the boulder of discipline. And I broke it into two pieces: good discipline and bad discipline. I do like good discipline and I do not like bad discipline. And good discipline is my discipline. You know, discipline that I choose, that I'm in control of. That's just, you know, getting better at the things that you want to do in your life. So if somebody, like some toxic boss that you have, tells you, um, always put on gloves before working on this machine or something, my brain's response is like, fuck you. I'm gonna do it, but can you not be an asshole about it? And they can't, or they won't. And you'll have to find your own discipline about that. And in my case, and maybe your case too, that comes from realizing what causes you frustration and annoyance. Like if you're doing some sort of job that requires gloves, you can do things like think, yeah, I don't like putting on the act, or the act of putting on gloves. But what I like even less is getting this chemical on my hands, which is a pain in the ass to wash off. So, what is less painful is doing the glove thing. Also, rule breaking. So, like with this type of mindset, like if there are, you know, shitty people trying to make you do, you know, follow rules that, you know, some of which are completely illogical. It's easy to think this person is dumb and I'm going to take their rule system with a grain of salt. And and that's kind of like poisoning your mentality on rules. It's really frustrating. It's super frustrating. But what I found is that me breaking rules causes me anxiety. And I don't want that. I don't want anxiety. Who wants anxiety? I mean, even masochists, I don't really think they want anxiety. Physical pain can be enjoyable, but who the F wants anxiety? I don't want anxiety. And it doesn't matter if I'm completely alone, no observation or surveillance at all, or how stupid the rule is. Like, if there's an area that is like taped off with caution tape, right? And your dumb piece of crap boss says, don't go into this area because I said so. Just do what I say. I hate you. And I don't give a F about you. No, even in circumstances like that, even if you like plan to quit, like at the end of that shift, it will cause you anxiety to step into that area. Um, so that's the reason why you shouldn't do that. Not because you've been ordered to do a certain thing by somebody who's a smooth brain and doesn't understand life or how leadership works. So don't do it for those reasons. Do it because, like, follow that rule because it will cause you anxiety, even a tiny, tiny, tiny amount. And you don't want that. It will give you less anxiety to follow the rule than it would be to break the rule. So that is my mindset when I have to choose between following a dumb as hell rule in any situation, like a parental situation or a work thing, legal system, like all that stuff. And that causes anxiety because, like, not just quote unquote for reasons. It causes anxiety because there's a non-zero chance that it will result in something you don't want to happen, like getting yelled at by your boss, or getting fired from the job, something like that, because you stepped into a caution tape area, even though there's literally nothing in or around that area, and your boss is super super dumb and you can't respect him. So don't do something because somebody else is trying to force you to do something, because that will make you mad. So, so, so mad. I know, because it has made me mad. A lot. Do it because it's part of your rule system, and your rule system takes priority. And your rule system is, I don't break rules because you don't want to break your own rules, right? You don't want to. You want to have a rule system that doesn't ever have to be broken. Like, you don't even have to think about whether or not to break this rule system, and you want to know exactly why you have this rule or that rule, or why this rule is a certain way. And if you're trying to apply that stuff to other people's rules, those rule systems are going to fall apart because they're so often stupid or illogical. But your rule system, once you start understanding, the way a rule should be, then you'll start to automatically respect your own rules because you know exactly why you have that rule. I mean, I'm not a criminal. I don't, and I hate to use that word because it's kind of dehumanizing. But I don't have a criminal record, never been arrested. I don't really, I'm not like a loose cannon whenever I go to a workplace. Like 99% of the time, I just do what's expected of me. Um, but every once in a while, like there are instances where the rules just break down and dissolve and disappear because like two rules are in conflict with each other. Like let's say in the previous example, you have a rule: don't go into this caution tape area. Um, but let's say that um, you dropped the last glove into that area by mistake, and you can't like reach. It's like so far into that area that you can't just like stand at the edge of the tape and reach in. You have to choose, which rule do I break? Because one rule is you must complete the job before going home. And another rule is, in order to complete the job, you must wear gloves. If you don't have gloves, do not proceed. And the third rule is, you must not enter this caution tape area. So you're trapped. I mean, you're forced to break a rule. And ADHD people and, to some extent, non-ADHD people, like, they don't enjoy breaking rules. They're just forced by a rule system that put us in that position. And what will happen if you just stand there and don't do anything because you don't want to break a rule? You will get yelled at by your boss for not completing the job. And if you try to explain that you're trying to follow the rules and you are unable to proceed because of the rules, this will enrage your shitty boss because they're a dumb piece of shit and they don't understand anything. And it'll turn into a really bad argument and he'll start yelling. I say he, but I mean, yes, women can be dumb shitty bosses too. And for the record, my current boss at my current job is not like this. So I'm not talking about that. I like my current boss. But previous bosses have been like that because logical systems kind of need to be perfect. And if they're not, then problems happen, like arguments. Like I couldn't. I was down on my last glove. It fell into the area. You told me not to go into the area, right? And he's like, yeah, but you need to complete the job. And I'm like, I mean, yeah, but I get yelled at if I break a rule. And I would have had to break a rule in order to do that. I would have had to break one rule in order to follow the other rule. You don't want me to break rules, right? And he's like, can you just do the job? That's what I'm asking. Just do the thing, complete the work. Like, why does this have to be an argument? Like, go get another glove. And I'm like, we are out of gloves. I have looked everywhere. I have checked up and down every single room. I have checked other areas. I have asked people. I have done my due diligence. That is The last glove. I have one glove on my hand, on my left hand, and the other glove that I need is in that spot. And I cannot get the glove because of this rule, which is in place long before that machine arrives. So there's no danger, but you set the rule. Do not go into that area. And I'm just trying to follow the rules. So I'm not being a shit fuck rule breaker like you think I am, and a smarmy little bitch. I am trying to follow the rules, and the rules are not followable. Figure it out. I have figured it out. It is your turn to figure it out. So, what do you want me to do? So that will be like what the argument will sound like, and I've had lots of those, and I can't remember like a specific example, which is why I had to create a fictional one. People want to follow rules. ADHD people want to follow rules. It's not that we want to be rule breakers. We want to live a life free from anxiety and be happy and do things in ways that are efficient and, you know, without making other people stressed out. And when you break a rule that your shitty boss has, it will stress out the boss if he finds out, and because of that, long before the boss finds out, even if there's no security cameras and nobody else is watching, you're completely alone, it will stress you out. If you go into that area and pick up that other glove and walk out of the area, even if it only takes a second, it is a non-zero amount of stress. It might be a 0.000001 amount of stress. I don't even think there's a unit of to like a unit of stress. One unit of stress. So a full unit of stress. I don't know what that would be, but let's just say that to do something little and stupid, which is just barely a breaking of the rule, will cause you a non-zero amount of stress and anxiety. And you want a 0% chance of stress, or a 0% amount of stress and anxiety because of black and white thinking. Because it will bug the bejesus out of you. If something that you're supposed to do, something that you're told and expected to do, requires the breaking of a rule and generates a non-zero amount of stress. And I did not understand for so many of the first decades of my life until recently. And I am pretty ambitious about trying to learn and learn about myself and learn from the mistakes that I made. This is ongoing. This is not just a habit, but something I rather enjoy. And it still never occurred to me until I had learned a specific piece of ADHD information. And I don't even remember what it is or how I learned it. I don't remember if somebody said something to me, somebody who had experience with ADHD, or if I read it somewhere. I don't remember. But before that moment, I did not understand concepts like these, and then after that moment, I began to understand concepts like these. And that's super frustrating. Because that's education. I mean, that's real education. And I don't think other people like know even that that's the thing that should be educated. Because as a kid, I was just told, follow the rules or else there will be consequences. And that is true. Like, right? Not like external, not just external consequences, like you'll, be punished for breaking the rules. Um, Consequences like you will become anxious for having broken the rules. But it's not said um, in an educatory way. It's said in more of a follow the rules, not because they will lead to your own happiness. And here, let me explain why. It's just follow the rules or I'm going to hurt you. I'm either going to, punch you in the face or, you know, send you to detention or whatever. And that's the wrong way to go about it. Sorry. I'm not gonna lie. Because that didn't work for me, and this does. Figure it out. I just handed you the answer. Get on board. This is not up for debate. Okay? I'm not talking to, like, you, dear viewer. I'm talking to people with sort of the fascist mentality of follow the rules or I will hurt you. Or follow the rules if you know what's good for you. I mean, follow the rules if you know what's good for you is correct. Right? Because that everything I just went through can be boiled down to the phrase, follow the rules if you know what's good for you. Right? Because following the rules is good for you. But that's not how that statement gets said. It's like said threateningly by assholes. Right? So that's why it don't work. It don't work good, at least. So, let me just say that crappy phrase one time so that I can try and, recover that phrase from, like, fascist a-holes. Follow the rules if you know it's good for you. Because following the rules is good for you. And it's my intention to get you all the way to the mindset where following rules is something you want to do. Because of logical reasons, like not following the rules will cause you stress. Simple as that. Not to appease a-holes. And you're going to have to remove a little bit of ego. Like, if you find yourself thinking, following the rules, I'll agree that it's good, but I'll feel better if I don't follow the rule in order to get a little bit of revenge on the a-hole that put that rule in place, and it doesn't make sense. You might think that mathematically it will work out, that it will cause you to have, how do I explain this? You might think that it's worth it, but it's not. Because as much as, you know, breaking a shitty rule that an asshole wants you to follow will piss them off, what's more important is that it will cause you a tiny bit of anxiety. And that's why you don't want to do it. Right? So that should take priority. I mean, yeah, the consequences are that you'll end up, you know, following the rules that are dumb and irrational because they're set forth by somebody who, at the very least, doesn't care about you and in all probability hates you. But it's still better to follow that rule, because if you don't, it will cause you a tiny amount of anxiety, and you don't want that. Oh, it is just ridiculous how that works. I just... And if I was not in the right place in my life, like 20 years ago, if... Let's say you're watching this video now. If you're thinking, I don't think this guy's right, that's exactly how I would have felt 20 years ago. even even having been walked through it, because everything I said, no matter how logical I might think I am being, and what's the word? How articulate I'm being, your ability is contingent on other things, like other beliefs that you hold, for example. So I just want to put the caveat that I think I'm right. I think I've been through all the points I need to get, you know, all the arguments I need to cover in order to convince someone. But that's kind of like wishful thinking, because other like other things, these wisdoms are like contingent upon other beliefs that you might hold. Right? So there's a non-zero chance that you will think this guy's wrong. That's fine. It's not like ideal, but speaking from experience, I have put a lot of time, effort, and stuff into stuff like this, and even I took decades to get to the point. So maybe just don't beat yourself up, just, and don't think I'm a piece of crap, just talking out my ass, and I don't have like a degree in psychology or psychiatry or mental health. I'm not a mental health professional. I mean, I haven't done making of rules in any professional capacity. Like, and if you think this guy doesn't know what he's talking about, he's inexperienced or whatever, whatever reasons you might have, maybe not even those reasons, but completely different reasons, like, I just don't have time to think about this. Just understand that things like pieces of advice like the previous 45 minutes just might not work for you right now. And that's not the end of the world. It's okay. You heard it. It went into your brain. If you were forced to repeat back literally everything that I said, or at least all the concepts as you understand them, you won't be able to. But that doesn't mean that your brain has forgotten it. It's kind of like when it rains onto the ground. Like a certain amount of time after it rains, it's kind of almost impossible to tell that it rained. But the soil knows the difference. It knows it rained. And the water is still in there, even if you can't see it while standing on the grass. Right? So anyway, this has been super fun, man. Let's do it again sometime. I almost said this has been exhausting. But I only had that thought because I wanted to be done. I was like, I'm done. I need to wrap up this video. And for 2 seconds, my thought was, this has been exhausting. But actually, it was only because I wanted it to be over. It was wrap up time. And for those few seconds, it was exhausting. So that's almost what I said. Even though, talking about that stuff was what I wanted to do. That's what I want to do with my life at that moment. I'm like sitting here in my pajamas, playing this game, barely paying attention to what I'm doing in the game. But that's what I wanted to do. But for the 2 seconds at the end I was like, this is exhausting. I don't want you to think that like going through stuff like this in your head is exhausting, because it's not. It's enjoyable. But like ADHD people like have to quit something when they're done with it, and not like keep going for reasons, which is what I'm doing now, and that's super exhausting. So anyway, that's the end of this video. Thanks for being there for me to bounce ideas off of. This video was made mostly just so I can talk and work out ideas. I really hope that if I ever end up uploading it, and if you, dear viewer, end up seeing it, that it helps you as well. But it's not about you. It's about me. And I hate to sound like a selfish prick, but that's what, the logic is about. And I don't want to get into that because that'll take more time. So, peace out, I guess. I'm going to do Mount Special. Maybe that'll be my end. Bye-bye.